Welcome back, viewers and listeners, to Mid Morning Talk with myself, Maimoona Mabena, and I am joined by a very resilient, courageous guest who goes by the name of Rabia Hawa, whose story really speaks to, courage and that of resilience, because she has dedicated her work and her life to really, protecting wildlife as well as communities. Rabia, assalamu alaikum once again, and jazakallah so much for joining us.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get started on the much work you've done and the impact you've had, I'd like to start to understand what drew you from media to that of conservation work.
So I think my media work just exposed me to the realities of poaching and what was going on in the natural world, and I wanted to make a difference. So I started volunteering, and before I knew it, I ended up doing it for forever. So yeah, it was just a real life experience.
Mm. And often we see people who fight for the sustainability of nature, and we don't understand the impact it has. And this is why I want to find out from you, what happens when those ecosystems are damaged? What is lost first by the local communities who actually depend on them?
So cumulative impacts are too many to count. Of course, there are direct impacts. A lot of people tend to see a poaching incident and they think that that is the limit of the damage, but the damage is actually far reaching and it extends to communities, it extends to the relationships between the biomes and these ecosystems that the wildlife are living in and surviving in. I can give you an example. So, if somebody poaches, let's say, um, a bushbuck, then they don't realize what the impact of the loss of that bushbuck out of greed, not really out of natural causes, will have on the related environment. So they feed on particular plants, and so it's really about how there is a balance that exists in the natural world. With removal of certain species, it creates an imbalance that is very difficult to replicate or replace or fix. I know that there are a lot of rehabilitation programs of ecosystems, and that's now happening globally around the world as a direct result of offtake of certain species due to hunting, culling, or some kind of development project that has been introduced in the area. And again, these are having cumulative impacts now, not just on those ecosystems, but on the communities that surround these ecosystems. So there's something that we call an ecosystem service that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to. There is a reason why we still have air and water and fresh air and water in many cases. And this is really largely because the ecosystem is functioning really well. It's a healthy ecosystem, and it's healthy because all the components of that ecosystem are intact and are working in tandem with each other. So again, when you take out something from that ecosystem, the cumulative impact of that will be felt.
Hmm. I believe we just lost Rabia once again because of connectivity. But Rabia, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Now, leading to my third question, you were recently celebrated at the Our Ocean Conference in Mombasa, and congratulations to you once again.
Thank
Amongst leading conservationists from around the world, what did that recognition mean to you? Rabia, would you like me to repeat the question? I believe there's a bit of a delay between myself and Rabia, but we'll keep trying her as she has been recognized as, a leading conservationist or by the conference that was, or rather in Mombasa through the Our Ocean conference, and would really like to hear from her in terms of what does that recognition mean for her, and in terms of, overcoming the threats and intimidations that she's had to, face. It's a matter of what kept her going. Because we know that if myself, on a personal capacity, if I was met with threats and intimidation, only Allah knows how would I have responded. And seeing an individual who has or continues to dedicate their lives to the work that has not brought them roses and chocolates, but actually, fights, as we've seen that the industry, or rather this negative economy of poaching and harming the wildlife, has been quite one that is growing, and its growth really speaks negatively to our ecosystem. It speaks negatively to us human beings existing in this world that we are currently living in, and we can only imagine what this means in a matter of if we continue to ignore these criminal behaviors. But we'll just try and connect with her again to see if she's with us. Rabia, are you still with us? I believe so. Rabia, my third question to you
Yeah.
was actually congratulating you on your, recent recognition by the Our Ocean Conference in Mombasa. Can you take us through what did that recognition actually mean to you?
So I think it really is a testament to how the ocean space is under attack by various factions, and why it's really important to now look at conservation from a wider sphere. So for many, many years, many generations, actually, conservation was very limited to terrestrial biodiversity. And only now are we seeing a huge movement in the ocean space. Granted that a lot of this is guided or sort of driven by the blue economy agenda, which is supposed to be grounded in sustainability, but you find that there are a lot of conservation implications and a lot of biodiversity and ecosystem implications that our oceans are suffering from that are not coming to light. So really this means that, again, we can bring to light some of these agendas and some of these issues that have been hidden for such a long time. I want to say that there is now talk of deep sea mining. I'm sure you've seen and heard of this. And with the advent of deep sea mining, we're really asking some critical questions in terms of what does that mean for carbon sequestration? What does that mean for what is then released back into the atmosphere when the entire bottom of the ocean is going to be lifted up? So again, it's creating this imbalance and unsettling natural ecosystems that I think we need to pay more attention to now. And I'm really glad that the ocean space is getting the attention that it deserves after such a long time of oceans just being treated as an abundant resource that is infinite. And of course, it is finite. You are finding, like where I come from, in the Tana River Delta, we have already seen a localized extinction of 3 species of sawfish just in the last 5 years alone. And this is as a direct result of commercial fisheries. And so we really need to start asking ourselves, what are our daily choices doing to contribute either towards the protection of critical ecosystems and species, or to damage them further? Are we making conscious choices? Are we making sure that we're buying from reputable companies and distributors, and we're not being sort of blindfolded by the narratives that their PR machines are throwing out there? So this is really some of the things that we talked about during the Our Oceans conference. We also talked a lot about the impact on small-scale fishers, so like local fishermen, and how they are now catching less and less fish as a direct result of industrial fisheries, and the wastage also that is happening in the commercial fisheries sector. So there was quite a lot that was unpacked during the Our Oceans conference, but I think on the overall, what it means is now it's coming to light, and no longer are we seeing that what's beneath the waves is invisible to our eyes.
Mm. And given that in South Africa, we are in the month that really celebrates women and is a tribute to the 1956 women who actually marched to the Union building. And I just want to point out, at the conference, or rather the Our Ocean conference, you spoke about the importance of women's leadership in conservation. Please tell us, why are women such a vital part of protecting our environment?
So I'll give you a real life example. In the village where we work, or where I interact with more often in the Tana Delta, we recently had a massive foreign company coming in and wanting to do titanium mining. And of course, in the regular style, what they did was they took a bunch of the leadership of the community, the men, and they sort of took them to another city, wined and dined them, put them up in fancy hotels, took them to the site and showed them how this mining is going to be great because we're going to compensate you and everyone's going to get 1 million shillings per acre of their land. Of course, when the men came back to the village, they were all blown away by this grand development project and how it's going to transform their lives because they're going to get 1 million shillings. But I think that women in the community were able to see far beyond that. We were able to hold a women's meeting and talk about the real implications of the mining. So, not just what are you going to do with 1 million shillings and how long is 1 million shillings going to actually last in today's world with the state of the economy, but what does this mean for your children and what does this mean for your children's children? What does it mean for your ancestors and your grandparents who maybe have passed away and are buried somewhere? Does it mean that their graves are going to be dug up? And I feel like a lot of these very emotionally connected situations are very difficult for men to just open their eyes to and just focus on. But when we had the women's meeting, they really, really were very concerned about what was going to happen to their daughters with the influx of foreign nationals coming to mind. What does it mean for their culture? What does it mean for their practice of faith? And also, of course, what does it mean for their future generations? And so they were able to put together a one-page letter to the minister objecting to the mining, and they really were able to mobilize not just the women in the community but also the youth and also the men, going home and saying to the men, actually we don't want this project because we're going to lose our land. We're not going to be able to be compensated to the value of the land in 10 years. And
Mm,
so I think that this ability to see beyond what's just in front of you and to be able to really have this forward thinking capacity. Not that men don't have that. I just feel like when there's money involved, it's difficult for them to apply that sometimes. And so I feel like women's leadership in conservation can be transformational if it's enabled and if women are empowered in the right way to be able to forward these agendas in the way that it's required.
mm. And I believe for individuals who are in South Africa, based in Johannesburg, or rather, let me say Gauteng, and would like to actually hear from you, I believe you are having an event tomorrow, Thursday, the 6th of August, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. at Nizamiya Masjid in Midrand. Can you tell us a bit more about the event and who exactly should make it to the event and what is the outcome you hope that every attendee walks away with?
So it's open to everyone, all ages, all classes, just anyone can come. It's really just an open discussion on the journey to conservation and some of the perceived barriers that people might have, to accessing conservation, either as a career, as a passion, as a charity work, and how really in Islam we need to expand our compassion and our charity to other beings. So that's kind of the premise of what we're going to be discussing tomorrow. Again, it's open to everyone. And in terms of what people would walk away with, I think it's just added knowledge. And I don't really have any particular goals from this talk. It's really just important for me to continue to spread the message about conservation, particularly conservation in an Islamic context, because I think we don't pay attention to it enough. And also to just hear from other people in terms of what are the challenges that they're facing maybe, or what are the barriers that they're facing that they're hoping to overcome, and how really to overcome that in today's space. It's also going to touch a little bit on advocacy work, because we're finding more and more that conservation is not limited to just running around in the field, maybe catching poachers or saving wildlife or protecting rhino. It's really transcended to a lot more than that. We're now getting into the spaces of advocacy, of policy, of lobbying. And I think that some of these big decisions are really having an impact on a ground level. And so just highlighting how it's also important to get involved in every facet of your life, and make conservation easy and accessible to everyone and anyone.
Jazakallah so much. Unfortunately, Rabia, we have run out of time, but I have to thank you for your continued courage and leadership, as well as your commitment to protecting not just the people, but also the planet itself. Jazakallah so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, and I wish you a good day. Assalam.
Ameen. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Viewers and listeners, that was our guest, Rabia Hawa, who is the executive director of Ulinzi Africa. Now, she has become Africa's most influential conservation voices, who has moved from the space of media to that of really fighting in the front lines of environmental protection. Hope that was quite inspirational and quite motivating to you. But for now, we're going to really head off to an ad break. When we come back, we have more conversation right here on Mid Morning Talk.